It's time for a blast from the past.
Five Gum and the Bouncing Balls. Jared, this was your suggestion from the other week. We've pulled it out of the archives.
Dude, if you have a chance, go watch all the 510. There's dozens of them, or Five Gum. There's dozens of them, and this is what they do. Go back to our mirroring. We feel things. We empathize. And last week when we were talking about the juicy corn, if you see an arid desert with some juicy corn squishing out, you can actually, if I can look at the sensory portions of your brain, you are tactily feeling that. You are tasting that corn in that moment. Not as extreme as if you were actually eating corn, but enough that the brain starts to change and adapt as though it were real. Five Gum did the best of this. All they did was tap into as many different senses as they could with a really low rumbling bass. In this instance, bass. Really smooth balls. It was all about the texture of those balls. You could see this dude's hair blowing, the coolness. When it's happening, you've never felt that before, but you have. You've laid on a trampoline before. You've played with you know what it's feeling like. And they say, there you go. That's your Five Gum. All we're going to do is get you to sensorially feel sensations. And we're going to then say, that's what it's like. And I think that's such a cool, because you can't tell me what your gum tastes like. So what are you going to do instead? I'm going to give you a whole different experience and just say, now link that to my gum and go have a good time. And they did it. The fact that they did it so repetitively too. What does it feel like to chew Five Gum at the front, Five Gum from Wrigley at the end? Now you can put anything you want in the middle, and it became a meme. People just started putting random shit. So online, they would have the opening, what it feels like to chew Five Gum. Then they would cut to a clip of their friend getting kicked in the nuts. Then they'd say Five Gum from Wrigley. Anything that was about sensation started to just be plugged into this format. And it shows you how you start watching, paying attention to good films versus mediocre films. The good ones, you will feel the temperature. Like if you're in the Arctic, they'll find ways to make you feel that coldness. And it doesn't have to be, like you said, like these dramatic snowstorm. Just seeing the crystals of snow while hearing wind, and then maybe someone's hand coming in to scoop it up. When you start to get the tactile, and again, at some point, there has to be a human being there for you to start mirroring it. So if all you do is show me a cold spot, I can think about cold, cool. But if you show me a person in cold, how they're reacting, their skin bubbling up, now I will start to mirror that. And that's how I start to feel that chill.
So does that, just before we wrap up, so talking sudden and powerful emotional shift, does that have to do with like a feeling, emotion? Like, does that, just for everyone out there, do deeper memories form when emotion is present, or it's the emotional shift where deeper memories form?
Yeah, so you tend to say emotions are always on. So emotion itself doesn't lead to deep memories. It's the mechanisms behind those emotions. When you do emotional shifts, that kicks off the mechanism, off you go. When you click into stress, that kicks off the mechanism, off you go. So anyone who says emotions are everything, not when it comes to memory, not really. It's the emotional shifts or what those emotions cause you to do that then later lead to that deep memory. So a good rule of thumb is let's say you have a car wreck. Today you have two events. You got in a car wreck and you bought a new hat. What are you more likely to talk about with your friends tomorrow when they say, hey, how was your day? You're going to bring up the car wreck. That recall of that memory is what led to the deeper memory. And why were you more apt to recall it? Because during the wreck, you had enough of emotional boost that triggered this memory system. And now that said, kind of imprinted it and said, I want you to recall, think about this later. So it's not I know this sounds weird, but it's not the emotion itself. It's what does that emotion cause you to do later is where we get our deeper memories. And if the emotion doesn't cause you to do those things, you could have the most emotional thing in the world and you won't remember it.
But just on the emotion, so is it just the emotion, or sorry, the shift, but do you also need, say, stress and then safety?
No, when it comes to stress can stand on its own, disgust can stand on its own, and largely anger can stand on its own. But the other ones, joy, sadness, surprise, kind of require. Actually, I would put surprise in instead of anger. Sadness, happiness, anger require more. Surprise is enough that can kick off a mechanism. Disgust is usually enough to kick it off on its own too. But yeah, so that's why we think if you're dealing with attention, it's all kind of about grab the attention, the surprise. Because if you can get that surprise jolt, congratulations, you have me. But if you're trying to play with something like joy or sadness or depression, you've got a lot more. You have to do the swing. You have to have the pain pleasure to form that deeper memory.